There are some landings that they shouldn't be possible. We're talking about moments where a plane, its crew, they're facing certain doom, and then, somehow, they don't.
And that's what the people on the ground always say, right? They call them miracles. These are moments where a total catastrophe ends, not in tragedy, but with people literally getting up and walking away without a scratch. Okay, so just picture this for a second. Two completely different scenarios. On one hand, you've got this high-tech fighter jet, and its entire right wing gets completely sheared off in a mid-air collision, but it's still flying. And on the other hand, a tiny little Piper Cub. Its engine is dead, and it ends up perched, like a bird, perfectly balanced on top of a 70-foot tree. I mean, both of those sound like certain death, don't they? So, what gives? Are these just flukes, miracles, or is there something else going on here? Some hidden science that connects these totally impossible survivals? Well, the answer isn't about luck. It's all about physics. See, here's the thing. The secret isn't actually about avoiding the crash. It's about mastering the physics of the impact. And it all boils down to one single concept: managing kinetic energy. So what's kinetic energy? Well, pretty much every single thing that moves has it. The faster it goes, the heavier it is, the more energy it's got packed inside. And in a crash, all that energy has to go somewhere instantly. So if you want to survive, your goal is actually super simple. You've got to find a way to bleed that energy off over the longest possible time and distance you can manage.
The best way to think about it is with an egg. Drop an egg on concrete, and what happens? Splat! It shatters, right? Because the stop is instantaneous. But what if you drop that same egg onto a big, fluffy pillow? It survives. The pillow gives it time to slow down, extending that deceleration, bleeding off the energy nice and slow. In this story, the plane is the egg, and the pilot's job, it's to find a pillow.
And the numbers on this are kind of mind-blowing. To survive a 9G deceleration, which is a lot, by the way, from 50 miles per hour, your body only needs about 10 feet of stopping distance. Less than 10 feet. That's it. So you see, it's not really about how hard you hit. It's all about how slowly you stop. Okay, so that's the theory. But how in the world do you find that pillow when you're 5,000 feet in the air and your engine just quit? Well, the first strategy is kind of wild. You embrace the impact, but you do it on your own terms. It's what they call a controlled crash. Pilots actually train for this. They learn to fly the plane right to the very edge of its limits, into a state called a stall mush. Basically, they force the plane to fly so slow it's barely even flying anymore. The whole point is to hit the ground with the absolute minimum forward speed. You're trying to turn the plane itself and whatever you're about to hit into one giant crumple zone.
And that brings us right back to John Gregory. Remember him? The 79-year-old pilot whose engine died over the forests of Idaho. He had no runway, nowhere to go. So he did exactly what you're supposed to. He slowed that Piper Super Cub way, way down and aimed for the trees. But here's the crazy part. Instead of crashing through them, he landed on them. His plane just came to a rest, perfectly balanced on top of a single 70-foot-tall fir tree. Those dense branches, they were the perfect pillow. They absorbed every single bit of that kinetic energy. And John Gregory, he walked away completely unhurt.
Okay, so that strategy is brilliant, if you can slow down. But what happens when you can't? What if you're in a high-performance fighter jet and slowing down just isn't an option? I mean, slowing down would literally mean just falling out of the sky. This leads us to a strategy that is the complete and total opposite. We're not talking about slowing down to survive. We're talking about speeding up. A strategy of pure, unadulterated brute force.
Let's go back to May 1st, 1983, a training exercise over the Negev Desert. An Israeli F-15 Eagle collides with an A-4 Skyhawk. The impact, it was absolutely catastrophic. The F-15's entire right wing was just gone, ripped clean off, leaving nothing but a 2-foot stump.
Now, let's be clear, a plane with one wing should not be able to fly, period. It should immediately go into an uncontrollable death spiral. But the F-15 had a secret weapon, something baked right into its design. That huge, wide, flat body of the plane, it's what's called a lifting body. At incredibly high speeds, the fuselage itself starts generating lift, basically acting like a wing. So the pilot, Ziv Nadevi, what does he do? On pure instinct, he slams on the afterburners. He knew he had to keep his speed insanely high. He ended up landing the plane at 260 knots. To put that in perspective, that is almost 300 miles per hour. That's twice the normal landing speed for an F-15. And he had to do it, just to squeeze enough lift out of the plane's body and that one remaining wing to stay in the air.
But here is the absolute wildest part of the story. A massive fuel leak was spewing from where the wing used to be, and it completely covered his canopy, obscuring his view of the damage. Zivnadivi flew and landed that plane without even knowing his wing was gone. His quote after the fact just says it all. "If I had seen that, I would have ejected." He literally flew an impossible aircraft because he didn't know it was impossible.
So let's just step back and look at these two cases side by side. You have a tiny little prop plane saved by going as slow as humanly possible. Then you have a massive, cutting-edge fighter jet saved by going as fast as it possibly could. Two completely opposite problems met with two completely opposite solutions. And yet, they both ended with the exact same incredible outcome: survival.
So what's the connection here? What's the one common thread that ties both of these unbelievable events together? It's not the type of plane, and it's not just the physics. It's the person in the cockpit.
Because think about it. Whether the right answer is to gently nudge your plane into a treetop, or to slam the afterburners on and fly a broken rocket ship, both of those miraculous outcomes depend entirely on one thing: a pilot who simply refuses to give up. A pilot who keeps making decisions second by second and who never ever stops flying the aircraft.
It is the absolute number one, golden rule of aviation. It's something drilled into every pilot from day one. No matter what is happening, no matter how bad things get, you fly the airplane, period.
So let's circle all the way back to that question we started with. Are these landings miracles, or are they something more? And I think now we can see they are something more. They're triumphs. Triumphs of applied physics, of some truly brilliant engineering, and maybe most of all, of the unbreakable will of pilots who, when they were faced with the impossible, made the choice to fly.
And that really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other so-called impossible feats are out there, just waiting for us to figure out the rules?